On Thanksgiving Day, I discovered my grandson shivering in a hidden room, an incredible, life-changing moment that would force us all to face our secrets. Tom had put his heart and soul into that Thanksgiving feast, hoping it would mend the frayed relationships with his estranged son, Jake, and surround them all with love and laughter. The sweet scent of roasting turkey and spices danced through the air, yet shadows of anger and disappointment lingered, refusing to be swept aside. As the clatter of pots and pans filled the kitchen, Tom felt a tug at his heart. Memories of family gatherings played like a slideshow in his mind. Laughter, warmth, and the comforting presence of his late wife filled the gaps, but it was soon overshadowed by the chill of unresolved conflicts. He turned, glancing to where Leo had been playing, but found silence. When he walked into the old playroom, memories pulled at him, a jumble of forgotten toys and the echoes of Leo's giggles. There, tucked away in the corner, was his grandson, small and trembling. Leo's wide eyes were filled with fear, as he clutched a crumpled piece of paper, his school assignment, holding so much pressure and despair. Tom knelt down, brushing the dust from Leo's shoulder. "Hey there, buddy," he said gently, voice barely above a whisper. "What's got you all twisted up?" I can't be like Dad," Leo stammered, tears glimmering in those bright eyes. "All the kids are better than me. I won't ever be enough." Tom's heart cracked open. His legs felt like lead as images of his own struggles flooded back. "Listen, Leo, it's not about being the fastest or the smartest. It's about being true to yourself. Your dad, he believes in you. I believe in you." They exchanged stories, slowly unearthing the shared vulnerability that Thanksgiving was meant to symbolize. The tension in the air softened, yet just as Tom felt the spark of hope, the door slammed open. Jake stood there, stormy and unforgiving. "Why even bother, Dad?" He spat, voice laced with years of unspoken bitterness. "You think this feast will fix everything? Newsflash, it won't. The atmosphere shifted, heavy and electric. Tom felt his anger rise like a tide. "You think I'm trying to fix things for me?" His voice trembled with pent-up frustration. "This family, the traditions, they matter. They always have." Jake raked a hand through his hair, frustration boiling over. "You don't understand. I never asked for this. The expectations you place on me, they're suffocating. I'm not you, and I don't want to be." With a scream of frustration, Jake turned and stormed from the house, leaving the door wide open behind him. The cold air swept through, carrying the weight of disappointment and confusion. Tom slumped back against the doorframe, heart heavy. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Tom sat there with Leo, both feeling the sting of loss in different ways. The joy from earlier faded. He understood, now more than ever, that the essence of family doesn't lie in achievements and recognition, but rather in openness and acceptance during the hardest times. As darkness draped the heavy-hearted home, a sense of urgency ignited within him. He needed to reach out to show Jake they could find common ground again. Just then, the door rattled. Would it be Jake returning to mend their broken bond? Or would someone or something else come breaking through the delicate threads that held this family together? The uncertainty hung heavily, a fragile and potent weight for what was to come. Tom's heart raced, the familiar family tensions swirling in a tempest within him. The rattle of the door had struck a nerve, like the echo of his son's voice still lingering in the air. Leo glanced up at him, eyes wide with a mix of fear and hope. The unspoken question pulsed between them, would it be Jake? The door creaked open slowly, revealing not Jake, but a family friend, Claire, her face drawn with concern. "I heard yelling. Is everything okay?" Her warm presence felt like a beacon amid the cold doubt that swept through Tom's soul. Not really, Tom admitted, weariness washing over him like rain. Jake lost it. He let me talk to him, Claire interjected, her voice steady. She had always been the voice of reason in chaotic moments. I'll see if I can bring him back. As she rushed outside, Leo looked up at Tom, his small hand grasping the fabric of Tom's shirt, grounding him. What if Dad doesn't come back? The innocent worry tugged at Tom's heart, making him ache to shield his grandson from this heartache. He will, Tom assured, though he wasn't entirely convinced. The uncertainty loomed large, like a storm overhead. He felt trapped in a cycle of misunderstandings, unable to break through the walls he'd built around his own emotions. Minutes stretched out like hours. Tom found himself wandering back to the kitchen, the scent of turkey now mingling with anxiety, that joyful warmth from moments ago now faded. He placed his hands on the counter and took a deep breath, almost willing the weight of expectation to lift. I didn't ask to be like you or anyone, Jake's voice suddenly pierced the air, breaking through the uncertainty that had settled over the house. He stood at the threshold, Claire just behind him, a cautious look on her face. I just want to be me. Then be you, Tom said, his own voice surprisingly steady. But understand, Jake, it's okay to lean on us. It's okay to feel afraid. He stepped closer, vulnerability shimmering through him. We're family. We can hold each other up. Jake stood there, a sculpture of defiance, yet something flickered behind his eyes, a glimmer of listening, of hope. You say that, Dad, but I always feel like a disappointment. The hurt poured from his voice, raw and jagged. Disappointment? You think you're the only one? Tom felt his own emotions bubble up, threatening to spill over. I fail, too, every single day. Life isn't about perfection. It's about, trying. Together. For a moment, time suspended. Silence wrapped around them like a warm blanket, the kind that once held them as they shared laughter over holiday dinners. Tom watched his son, hoping for a break in that hard exterior. I don't want to be fixed, Dad. Jake's words hung in the air. I want to be understood. Tom felt tears prick his eyes. Then let us promise to understand each other. No more expectations. Just honesty. Leo stepped forward, brave in his own childlike way. I'll help, too. We can all be ourselves, right? His innocence illuminated the moment, breaking through the fog of conflict. Jake flashed a hesitant smile, and Tom's heart swelled, a flicker of warmth chaining them together again. But just when it felt as if they were turning a corner, the loud crash of something fell over in the living room, shattering their fragile moment. What was that? Claire gasped, eyes wide in alarm. Tom's heart raced anew as he exchanged glances with Jake and Leo. Whatever had just interrupted this moment of connection felt ominous, leaving them uncertain. As they turned toward the noise, a question lingered, echoing louder than the crash. What now? Tom rushed toward the living room, the instinct to protect surging through him. The figure in the doorway hesitated, caught between dread and curiosity. Jake, for all his boldness, was also keenly aware of the tension that hung in the air. Leo followed closely, his small hand still clutching Tom's shirt. The living room looked as it always did, filled with remnants of holiday decorations, but one ornament lay shattered on the floor, a reminder of the unpredictability of emotions, as delicate as glass. What happened? Tom asked, his voice edged with urgency. Claire stepped in beside them, scanning the room, her brows knitted tightly. It came from the storage closet, she said. Her voice barely above a whisper, as if dread had claimed it. Tom's heart sank. That closet held memories, boxes of old toys, forgotten laughter, the ghosts of family gatherings. As he approached, he felt a familiar weight pressing on his chest. Stay back, he instructed Jake and Leo, nodding his stomach. He opened the closet door, its wood creaking as if protesting against what lay inside. The light was dim, the shadows deep and oppressive. There, wedged behind a stack of dusty boxes, was a small figure, a child. It was Jace, his neighbor's kid, a boy Leo's age. His brown hair stuck up in every direction, and his eyes were wide, reflecting a mix of fear and confusion. "What are you doing here?" Tom asked, his voice softening as concern rushed in. I heard yelling," Jace stammered, shivering in the cramped space. "I was scared." The world around them dulled for a moment as Tom took in the sight. This wasn't just about his family anymore. They were an uncontrollable mix of emotions, and here stood another child wrapped in uncertainty. Turning towards Jake and Leo, he saw the shift in their expressions. The worry on Leo's face had been replaced with a sense of responsibility, and Jake's defiance melted away, replaced with empathy. "Jace, it's okay," Tom said gently, crouching to meet the boy's eyes. "You can come out." He extended a hand, inviting him to step out of the shadows. "We're all just a bit on edge. But you don't have to hide." After a moment of hesitation, Jace reached for Tom's hand, emerging slowly into the light of the living room. There was a heaviness in the air that pressed down on all of them, but the simple act of connection made it feel just a bit lighter. Jake stepped forward, his voice softening. "I get it. We've all been scared. It's normal." Jace nodded, still clutching Tom's hand like a lifeline. "Thanks. Why don't we sit down and talk?" Claire suggested, her voice bringing a calmness that enveloped the room. She was always good at finding the right words. Tom caught Jake's gaze. Though the tension hadn't completely dissipated, something had shifted. They were moving closer to understanding each other, taking steps toward healing. The boys settled onto the couch, Leo peeking over with curiosity, as Claire began reassuring Jace that they were safe now. The air buzzed with the warmth of shared stories. But as they began to share tales of school, ghosts, and silly experiences, Tom recognized the bitterness that still lingered. The crash hadn't only been the ornament, it was a sign of the fractures that needed mending. Just as the conversation flowed, a phone rang sharply, slicing through the fragile air. Claire answered it, and Tom's stomach dropped when he heard her worried response. "What? You need to come here." Tom's heart began to race again, the warmth draining from the room as he sensed the impending storm returning. "Who is it?" Jake asked, confusion knitting his brows. Claire ended the call and turned to them, a mix of concern and urgency in her eyes. "It's Jace's mom, she's on her way here." Tom felt a sudden chill wash over him, the shadows in the room thickening again. What would they say when she arrived? And in that moment, he couldn't shake the feeling that the real work was just beginning, not for the holidays, but for the very family in front of him. Would they face this together, or would this moment tear them apart once more? The air grew heavy, thick with anticipation as they waited for Jace's mom. Tom glanced at the boys, their faces a mix of worry and confusion. He could see the questions swirling in their minds. Jace clung to Tom's side, the weight of the world evident in those wide eyes. "Why is she coming here?" Jace finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "She just wants to make sure you're okay," Claire said, trying to soothe the tension. Her smile was gentle, but her eyes held a flicker of uncertainty. "What if she's mad?" Jake asked, fidgeting with the hem of his shirt. The bravado he'd shown just moments ago seemed to fade in the wake of a harsh reality. "If she is, we'll deal with it together," Tom replied, firm yet reassuring. There was a strength in his words, a promise that they were united. But deep inside, doubt crept in. What if Jace's mom blamed them for what had happened? The quiet in the room was unsettling. Leo finally broke the silence, his small voice chiming in. "Maybe she'll bring cookies," he said, looking hopeful, trying to shift the mood. Everyone chuckled lightly, the tension lifting just a little. But it was short-lived as they heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching the front porch. "Here she comes," Claire murmured, her eyes darting toward the door. Tom swallowed hard, positioning himself between the boys and the entrance. "Let us all stay calm. We can show her we're a team." He took a deep breath as Claire opened the door, revealing Jace's mom, her expression wrought with concern. Her hair was disheveled, as if she'd rushed out the door. "I'm so sorry for barging in like this," she said, her voice shaky. Her gaze fell on Jace, still clutching Tom's shirt. "Jace. Are you okay?" Jace nodded slowly, and for a second, it felt like they were all exhaling together, releasing the pressure. "I just got scared," he admitted. The relief washing over Jace's mom was palpable. "I should have been there," she whispered, her voice carrying the weight of guilt. She stepped closer, but Tom held his ground. "He's safe here," he said, guarding a fragile piece. "Yeah," Jake chimed in, finding his voice again. "We all got scared. It happens." Jace's mom looked from Tom to the boys, uncertainty etched across her face. "I didn't mean to put him in a weird spot, you know. We have been having some things happen in families," Claire interjected gently, her eyes warm but firm. "It's okay to be scared. It's how we deal with it that counts." Jace's mom seemed to soften at that, the tension easing a bit in her posture. "You're right. I just don't want Jace to feel like he has to hide." Tom recognized the link that connected them all, the understanding that they were all navigating rough waters, trying to learn how to swim. "Maybe we should all sit down and talk," Claire suggested, her voice creating a space for openness. Slowly, they gathered around the living room, creating a circle of openness, sharing stories not only of fear but of moments that mattered, things that brought them together. Could this be a turning point? Tom wondered. Could vulnerability fuel connection? He watched as laughter broke out between Jace and Leo, watched the walls between their hearts begin to lower. And just then, the doorbell rang again. This time, it was a neighbor with a pie, a sweet distraction from the emotional currents swirling around them. But as Tom looked at the boys, he felt that flicker of hope, the promise of what could be a family learning to heal. What would this new connection bring? Would they be able to navigate the complexities of their emotions together? As he stood there, he knew they were on the brink of something more significant than he could grasp, something that could either bring them closer or pull them apart again. And as the door swung open, a new question echoed in his mind: what happens when the past comes back in unexpected ways? Claire smiled at the neighbor as she placed the pie on the table, but her heart raced with tension. The warmth of the dessert felt at odds with the uncertainty hanging in the air. Jace's mom took a moment, visibly gathering herself before looking back at the group, an unspoken question lingering in her eyes. "Thank you for being here for him," Jace's mom said, her voice steadier now. She seemed to be weighing her words carefully, a smile struggling to surface. "I just want him to feel safe." "Sometimes safety is about facing things together," Tom replied, his eyes meeting hers, and hoping she could see the sincerity behind his words. As they settled into the living room, the pie sat prominently on the table, sweet-smelling and inviting. Leo, ever the observer, reached out for an imaginary slice, his small hands pretending to cut it. The gesture brought an easy laugh, something they all desperately needed. Jace's mom sat down, her attention capturing Jace's undivided focus. "How about we talk about what happened today?" she asked, an effort to draw out the feelings bottled inside her son. Jace's cheeks flushed as he looked up at Tom, seeking comfort. "I don't want to talk about it," he murmured. "That's okay, buddy," Tom said softly, kneeling down to Jace's level. "You don't have to share anything you're not ready for. We can talk about something you like instead. What is something that makes you happy?" As Jace began to open up about his favorite superhero, a small smile returned to his face. Tom watched, feeling a weight lift just a hint more. They were in a delicate dance, all stepping cautiously toward connection. Jace's mom watched her son, her brow furrowing slightly. "He is so brave," she said quietly. "I fear I haven't been there for him like I should been." "We all have our struggles," Claire reassured her, leaning in. "But you're here now, and that means a lot. Sometimes, just showing up makes all the difference." The boys were now animatedly speculating about superpowers, laughter bubbling up as they tried to one-up each other. Tom glanced at Jace's mom, who was visibly relaxing, her shoulders losing some of the tension they had carried. "Hey, maybe we could have a superhero party," Jake suggested, his eyes alight with enthusiasm. "We can dress up and fight evil." Jace's eyes sparkled. "Can we have a cake this time?" "A cake and a pie," Leo piped up, his excitement infectious. Jace's mom chuckled, allowing herself a moment of enjoyment amid the heaviness. "That sounds perfect," she said softly. Suddenly, a sharp knock on the door shattered the warm bubble they wrapped around themselves. Tom felt his heart drop. Who could it be, crashing this newfound peace? "Where's Jace?" A voice barked from the other side. Jace tensed, his small body stiffening against Tom. They all exchanged cautious glances. Jace's mom's panic was reflected in her eyes. "Who is it?" Tom asked, rising to his feet, a protective instinct kicking in. "It's just my." Jace's mom hesitated, glancing at her son. There was a storm brewing in her heart. "My ex-husband," she finally said, barely above a whisper. Tom's chest tightened. What was it going to take to keep this moment intact? Would this presence disturb the fragile safety they had built? As the door creaked open, Tom steeled himself for whatever would come next. What happens when old wounds threaten to reopen a fragile family dynamic? The door swung open slowly, revealing a tall figure, hardened features shadowed by worn lines of worry and regret. Jace's ex-husband, Rick, stood in the doorway, his eyes scanning the group with a mix of irritation and confusion. The air thickened around them like fog, and every heartbeat felt like a countdown to chaos. "Mom!" Jace's voice strained with disbelief. Tom felt the boy stiffen even further at the sight of his father, his small hands clenching into fists. It was as if the cheerful atmosphere had turned to ice in an instant. "Rick," Jace's mom managed, her tone teetering between exasperation and fear. "What are you doing here?" "I came to see my son," Rick replied, his voice low but sharp, like a knife hidden under a tablecloth. "Well, that's not happening, not right now," she shot back, her protective instincts flaring. Tom felt the tension spiral as he stepped forward, placing himself between Jace and Rick, sensing the storm brewing. "Jace is upset. This isn't the time," he asserted firmly, his voice steady. Everyone's gaze cut between the father and son, hearts beating in unison with the intensity of the moment. Jace's eyes flicked nervously between Tom and his father, searching for safety. Rick scoffed, his posture shifting, a mix of defiance and vulnerability. "Keep your nose out of it, Tom. Jace has a right to know who his father is. You don't get to decide that for him." Claire's breath caught in her throat. She could see the fear in Jace's eyes, the confusion swirling inside him, and the need to protect him washed over her. "You want to see your son?" she said, stepping forward, her tone cutting through the tension. "You can't barge in here and act like everything is fine after what happened." "Fine?" Rick echoed angrily, taking a step closer. "You think I'm just going to disappear? You think being a father comes with an option to opt out?" With every word, the tension escalated as Jace sank against Tom, whispering, "I don't want to talk to him." Tom wrapped an arm around the boy's shoulders, giving him a reassuring squeeze. "Then don't, Jace," Tom said softly. "You have the right to choose. We've built a safe space here." Rick's gaze fell hard on Tom. "You're just here to play hero, aren't you? You don't know anything about being a parent." "I know more than you realize," Tom shot back, his heart racing. The emotions were swirling like a storm in his chest, but he pushed that back. It wasn't about him, it was about Jace. With the pressure rising, Jace's mom interjected, her voice steady. "Rick, this isn't just about you. It's about Jace and what he needs right now. He needs support, not confrontation." The silence that followed was thick. Rick crossed his arms, his eyes burning with frustration, but there was a flicker of realization there too, just underneath the surface. "Jace," he called softly, his voice losing some of its edge, "can we talk, just you and me?" The question hung between them like a lifeline or a noose, and Jace's expression shifted, showing fear and curiosity all at once. Tom felt Jace tremble next to him, his body jerking as if teetering on the edge. "I don't know." Jace's voice was barely above a whisper, but it was clear this moment would define everything. Claire's heart thrummed in her chest, caught between instinct and empathy. What choice would Jace make? Would he choose to face the one person who had caused him so much pain, or would he lean into the safety of their makeshift family? "What if I can't face him?" Jace finally asked, tears welling in his eyes. The question echoed through the room, filling the space with the weight of uncertainty. Just as Jace seemed ready to crumble, the door remained wide open, revealing not just Rick, but the potential for an integral moment of transformation. Could Jace find his strength in vulnerability, or would past wounds drag him back into the storm? As the chilling breeze whipped through the threshold, Tom knew that the conversation was just beginning, and the next steps could change everything forever. Jace stood frozen, his mind racing, a whirlwind of emotions swirling around him. The flicker of anticipation in Rick's eyes sent shivers down his spine. Tom squeezed Jace's shoulder, anchoring him, yet the boy felt like a tightly wound spring, unsure of whether he would snap or unwind gently. "Jace," Rick tried again, softer this time, as if he could weave his way into the cracks of their fragile connection. "It's just a conversation. I want to make things right." Jace felt the weight of Rick's words, mixing with the gravity of his past. He had imagined this moment countless times, the confrontation, the questions left unanswered, but never did he picture standing here, feeling so lost and vulnerable. "You don't get to decide what's right for me," he replied, surprising even himself with the firmness in his voice. Rick flinched at the words, his facade cracking. The impatience faded, revealing a raw urgency that made Claire take a cautious step forward. "Jace, listen," she said, her voice soothing but charged with concern. "What he did, it hurt you. And it's okay to feel afraid. But this choice is yours, not his." The room held its breath, everyone watching, hearts racing in their chests. Tom's protective instincts flared, but he also recognized this was a pivotal moment for Jace, a chance to decide for himself. "Why should I trust you now?" Jace's voice trembled as he took a step back, inadvertently pulling away from Tom's solid presence. His emotions flared, the hurt bubbling to the surface. "You weren't there when I needed you. How can you just show up like this and expect me to want anything to do with you?" Rick's shoulders sagged under the weight of those words as he glanced at Jace's mom. "I know I messed up. I can't change the past, but I want to try, to be here for you. I know I've got a long way to go." The honesty washed over Jace like a cool breeze, mixing doubt with something unexpectedly warm, an ember of hope. Could a part of him forgive? Could he find the courage to even try? Every question spiraled louder than ever, drowning out the conversations buzzing around him. Tom could sense Jace on the brink of decision. "You're not alone in this," he whispered carefully, pulling Jace closer, an act of solidarity that spoke volumes. "You don't have to go through it all by yourself." Tears brimmed in Jace's eyes, the turmoil mixing with a spark of clarity. I don't know what I want. I don't want to feel this way anymore." Rick's gaze softened, full of something altogether different, a flicker of regret mixed with an undeniable yearning for connection. "I understand. And I don't want to rush you. If you need time, take it." Jace looked to Tom, the safety and assurance radiating from his new role in his life. It was tempting to lean into the comfort of that security, but could he truly ignore his past, the man standing before him, waiting for a reaction? The air crackled with tension, every eye fixed on Jace as he weighed his options, the walls of his heart slowly cracking under the pressure. "I wish it could just go back to being simple," he said, his voice barely a whisper, but the weight of that admission shifted the atmosphere significantly. As emotions hung heavy, Tom steadied his breath, knowing that whatever decision Jace made next would define them all. Would Jace step into the darkness of the past, or forge his own path forward, unburdened by choices made for him? In that charged space, the only sound was Jace's heart pounding, echoing the urgency of a decision waiting to unfold. As uncertainty loomed, one question lingered in the air: who would Jace choose to be in this moment, and would it bring healing or fracture him even more? Jace felt the room tilt as his heart pounded in rhythm with the thoughts scrambling in his head. Each beat echoed the shame and anger that lingered longer than he wanted, the days spent wishing he had a father who stood by him, the nights spent with tears soaking his pillow, and the countless moments of internal struggle. He took a deep breath, a desperate attempt to gather himself as he stood at the crossroads of healing and hurt. Tom's grip tightened on his shoulder, his presence a comforting reminder that Jace didn't have to face this alone. "You're strong, Jace," Tom said softly, meeting his gaze with unwavering trust. "Whatever happens next, I'm right here." It was as if Tom's words lit a small candle in the darkness. Jace felt a flicker of warmth, and he clung to that spark, desperate to protect it. He turned back to Rick, whose eyes were pleading but filled with genuine sorrow. For all the pain that Rick had caused, there was a humanity that slipped through, the longing for connection, the wish to rebuild what had been shattered. "Do you really mean that?" Jace's voice quivered, betraying the vulnerability he felt. "You want to be there for me now?" "I do," Rick replied, his sincerity as fragile as glass. "I understand if it's hard to believe me. I know I don't deserve a second chance, but I want to earn your trust. I want you to feel safe with me even if it takes time." Jace studied Rick's face, the lines etched deep with regret and hope. It was a confusing mix, and the part of him that still hurt couldn't he look away from the scars of the past. Shouldn't he hold on to the anger? Protect himself from further disappointment? Yet, there was something in Rick's tone that sparked another thought: what if this was a chance to rewrite their story, to cast off the chains of old hurt? "Don't rush him," Claire interjected gently. "Healing is a slow process. Trust is built on little moments, not grand gestures." Jace nodded, feeling a rush of gratitude for Claire's support. It was comforting to know he had people in his corner, yet a storm brewed inside him, swirling with conflicting desires. What did he truly want? To forgive? To forget? Could he dare to invite Rick back into his life, even if it was at the edge of his heart? Shifting his weight, Jace took a step forward, grounding himself. "I'm not saying I'm ready to forgive. I don't want to feel this pain anymore." A hopeful look washed over Rick's face. "Then let us take it one step at a time. I'll be here, no matter how long it takes." A tremor of uncertainty flickered through Jace. Could he really let go? Just then, a soft whisper of music drifted in through the walls, a distant holiday melody that carried memories of simple times when gatherings were filled with laughter and light, untouched by shadows. Jace closed his eyes, letting the music wash over him, and for the first time in a long time, he imagined what forgiveness might feel like. It was not an instant fix, it was like a neat little package waiting to be unfolded slowly. It felt like standing before a door he had locked a long time ago, hesitating before he turned the handle. When he opened his eyes, Tom was watching him with a faint smile, as if he saw something Jace hadn't even recognized in himself, a glimmer of hope. And as Rick took a cautious step closer, Jace felt the weight of a decision resting heavily on his shoulders. Was he ready for this? Could he take that step into the unknown, stepping out from the darkness of the past into a future where healing was possible? Just as uncertainty threatened to pull him under once again, he searched Rick's eyes for the truth, the promise of commitment to change, the hope for healing. "Let us try," he said, the words barely a whisper but brimming with the weight of everything that was unsaid. The room pulsed with a collective breath as Rick's face brightened with cautious joy, yet Jace couldn't shake the feeling of being on the precipice. What awaited him in this new chapter? All that lingered was the question of whether their journey toward reconciliation would be worth the risk. And as the music faded into the background, the silence that followed was now filled with possibilities. Would letting go of the past save them both, or would it drag them deeper into old wounds? Would Jace find the healing he had longed for, or was this just the beginning of another difficult path? Jace's heart raced as he absorbed the weight of his decision. The air felt thick with tension, almost electric, as if anything could happen next. He glanced over at Tom, who offered a reassuring nod, his eyes reflecting a warmth that made Jace feel slightly less alone. There was so much to unravel, so much history behind them, a tapestry woven with both love and pain. Rick took another cautious step forward, hesitation painted across his features. "Thank you, Jace. I know it's not easy," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "I'll take things at your pace, I promise." For a moment, Jace found himself caught between the flickering flame of hope and the shadows of doubt. "It's not just about you wanting to make things right," he said, his voice steadier now. "I have to be ready too. We can't just forget everything that happened." "I know," Rick replied, his expression softening. "But we can start fresh. Just small steps." "Fine. Small steps," Jace conceded, the words tumbling out with a mix of relief and trepidation. "What do you suggest we do? Just sit and talk? Let us not just talk. Let us create memories together again," Rick said, the enthusiasm in his voice genuine. "Why don't we try going for coffee, or maybe a walk in the park? Something simple, just to reconnect." Claire smiled at the idea, visibly pleased. "That could be nice. A neutral ground," she added, the hint of encouragement in her tone pushing Jace to consider it more seriously. The idea of reconnecting wasn't as daunting as he'd imagined. "Okay, let us do that," Jace heard himself saying, surprising even himself. There was still fear simmering inside him, but there was also the possibility of something new, a chance to rewrite their narrative. Rick's face lit up with gratitude, as if Jace had just offered him the world. "Thank you. I mean it. This means everything." Taking another deep breath, Jace fought to calm the whirlwind of emotions inside him. "But I'm going to need time. I'm not going to change overnight." "I wouldn't expect anything less," Rick responded, his sincerity palpable. "I'll be patient. Even if it takes forever. I just want to be in your life again." Jace nodded, feeling the relief wash over him, albeit mixed with uncertainty. Could they really navigate this complicated landscape? He desperately wished for things to be simple, for trust to come as easily as the morning light. Yet, life had taught him that nothing was ever that straightforward. The music had faded completely now, leaving a memory that lingered like a ghost in the air. Jace felt an overwhelming desire to turn back to the song, to let the rhythm carry him away as it once had. Instead, he made his way to the door, feeling an uneasiness rising within him. "Okay," Jace said resolutely. "Let us plan on coffee maybe tomorrow." It felt like a step forward, but a small one, with a mountain ahead still to climb. "Tomorrow sounds perfect," Rick replied, a smile creeping across his face that lit the room far brighter than any light. Tom clapped Jace on the back, proud and encouraging. Just as they prepared to leave, the door creaked open slightly, and Claire's voice interrupted the moment. "Hey, are you guys ready for dinner? The food's getting cold. And I can't eat another bite until I see some smiles around this table." Jace chuckled a little, the tension easing just a fraction. "Yeah, let us go," he agreed, momentarily pushed into the present. As they headed out of the room, Jace felt a mix of excitement and anxiety coursing through him. What lay on the other side of this tentative movement? Would he regret taking this chance, or would it turn into something beyond what he'd ever hoped? His heart beat faster in anticipation, as if the universe was holding its breath for what came next. The moment hung in the air, the promise of change, the weight of vulnerability. Would this new path lead to healing, or would the past rise to haunt them both once more? Jace stepped forward, the warmth of family welcoming him as he crossed the threshold. The unknown awaited beyond those walls, filled with hope and uncertainty. Would they be able to navigate this uncharted territory together, or would the cracks in their foundation reveal themselves in a way that felt irrevocable? As Jace entered the dining room, the warmth enveloped him like a comforting embrace. The inviting aroma of the Thanksgiving feast lingered, mingling with the laughter that bubbled around the table. "Tom," Claire, Leo, and even Jace's mom were already seated, their eyes bright with joy, relief, and curiosity. The ambience buzzed with potential, the hope that this moment could mark a turning point for them all. "Look who's back!" Leo exclaimed, bouncing in his chair. "Can you believe it? We made it through the scary part." Jace couldn't help but grin. The innocence in Leo's voice reminded him of why they were all gathered here in the first place: love and connection. As he took his place at the table, he felt a gentleness washing over him. The tension had softened, like ice melting under the sun's embrace. "Dinner is served," Claire chimed, her excitement infectious. She began passing around dishes, the colors bright and vibrant. Turkey, gravy, mashed potatoes, green beans, all of it a feast fit for family, a symphony of flavors waiting to be savored. Tom looked at Jace, his expression reassuring. "You all right, buddy?" he asked, his voice low enough for just Jace to hear. Jace nodded slowly. He felt lighter, though uncertainty still pulsed at the back of his mind. "I think so," he replied softly, a tentative smile creeping across his face. Today had been a whirlwind, each moment poured out a little more clarity, a little more understanding of what it meant to lean into vulnerability. As the meal commenced, laughter danced around the table, stories unfolded, and for the first time in a long while, Jace truly felt he belonged. Claire shared a funny story about her family's Thanksgiving mishaps, causing everyone to erupt with laughter. "One year, the turkey didn't cook at all because I forgot to turn on the oven." She chuckled, her eyes twinkling. Rick, sitting quietly at the edge of their circle unaware of his own quietly brewing self-reflection, smiled softly at the warmth of the moment. Jace caught a glimpse of his father's softer side, a flicker of a man willing to connect, even if it came steeped in uncertainty. "Here's to family, whichever way it comes," Tom said, raising his glass. The room fell silent, and everyone joined in unison, raising their glasses with a hopeful energy in the air. "May we face everything together, through fear, laughter, and lots of love." Everyone echoed the toast, and in that moment, the heaviness lifted just a little more. Jace heard those words resonate, feeling them sink deep into his heart. They were embarking on a journey together, imperfect, uncertain, but filled with hope. After dinner, when plates were cleared and the spirit of togetherness hung thick like the aroma of cinnamon lingering long after the meal, Tom suggested playing a game, one that involved sharing secrets and moments from their lives. "Let us make this a tradition," he said with enthusiasm. "It can be silly or heartfelt, whatever feels right. Let us learn about each other." Jace watched as the group began to share. Stories from childhood, humiliating moments, and dreams for the future filled the air, laughter intertwining with deeper bonds being formed. As he listened, he felt lighter, unshackling the burden he had carried for too long. When it was his turn, Jace took a deep breath, vulnerability spilling over the edges of his heart. "I'm not perfect. I made mistakes. But I want to be better for all of us. I want my dad to be part of my life," he admitted, his voice steady but tender. "And I want us to work through things, together." The room held its breath, caught in a moment of unity and reflection. Rick's eyes shimmered, a mix of pride and sorrow flashing across his face. "Thank you, Jace," he said softly. "That means everything to me." Breakthroughs unfolded throughout the night. As stories of connection and laughter filled the room, there were glimpses of mending a family, rediscovering the contours of love beneath the shadows of hurt. Finally, as the evening drew to a close, Jace felt a sudden assurance. Even though the road ahead would be layered with challenges, they had begun carving out the path together, a promise forged in a gentle flicker of trust. Tom looked around the table, visibly moved. "No matter what comes next, we'll face it together," he said affirmatively. "Thanksgiving isn't just about food, it's about the love we share. Let us build on this to support each other, openly and without fear." As the night ended, Jace knew this was a pivotal moment, a seed planted in the rich soil of connection. It was a night to remember, a moment that would mark their journey toward healing. When he hugged each person goodbye, a radiant smile graced his face, ready to embrace what lay ahead without the weight of the past dragging him down. feeling a swell of gratitude and reflection, Jace whispered silently to himself, "We did it. We stepped into the light." With hopeful resolve, he turned back for one last look around the warmth surrounding him. The whispers of the night seemed to echo a promise of family growing together, unafraid to face whatever storms may come. Now, my friends, this is your moment. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss the next chapter of our incredible journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm's hunger for heartwarming stories that inspire. Comment your thoughts, let us know how the transformation resonated with you and what you loved about the ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this heartwarming transformation. Together, let us spread the love and healing.